Guys, we're one day away from Freedom Day, which will allow us to put this horrible pandemic behind us. And as we start coming out of this wretched lockdown and hold of the virus, I've been taking stock of the litany of personal finance information we consume. And as avid disciples trying to gain control of our personal balance sheets, I noted in my own personal case where I have a positive net worth and investments in property and equities. So the pandemic has not been as bad as I imagined it would be. To be honest, I did think that this time it could be a little bit different and our markets and investments would be royally screwed, but it hasn't been like that. And we have to admit, things will never be like they were before, and the pandemic has made me think that there are two trends that were slowly developing in the economy which have now been accelerated. What could have taken a decade has now taken a matter of months to be a prominent feature of personal finance. But what are these trends? Well, it should be quite obvious, but it's runaway house prices and working from home. And in my own case, I've been totally bemused at how my net worth has been transformed with the growth of my real estate portfolio, which includes my own home. Now, sure, it's more of a paper profit as I can't really do anything with it at the moment, but it's still nice and comforting to know that it's happened. And working from home, well, I haven't been in the office for about 2 years, coming out of maternity and then being in the pandemic and working from home. But having said that, productivity has been through the roof, and being pregnant again right now and not having to brave that London underground is quite nice. I'm not gonna lie, it's sweet. But what does that all mean for personal finance? Well, let me break it down with how I've been thinking about personal finance, and in particular my quest for financial freedom. Now, for me, financial freedom is making work optional, and that's allowing me to do work that I truly enjoy without ever worrying about how I'll pay the bills. So it's pretty simple, really. It's working on this particular equation. Financial freedom is equal to passive income plus income from work you love being greater than your living expenses. So here, passive income needs to generate cash flow. There's no point of having a massive net worth on paper if there's no cash coming from it, and if it doesn't help to get to financial freedom. So you can probably see where I'm going with this. But back to runaway house prices. Yes, rising house prices have me wealthier, but not really. So affording to buy your own home in the UK is a big issue. The housing market has been on an absolute tear through the pandemic, and if you want to see more of my take on it, you can click here. Now, early on in the pandemic, there was fear or expectation that house prices would dip, but in fact that turned out to be nonsense, and house prices have been on a tear, breaking records in the UK. Now, this benefited the net worth of homeowners and accelerated it further for a specific group of homeowners, those that were easily able to switch to working from home. Now, I am fortunate to be in that category from a working perspective and from a home perspective. I own in London, and so while it hasn't seen the growth of property prices per the rest of the country, my home in particular is up about 17% since I bought it about 3 years ago. Now, I've talked about property investing in my earlier videos, but for quick reference here, home ownership in the UK allows for homeowners to benefit from those leveraged returns. And what I mean by that is your property mortgage is fixed, the liability of your personal finance balance sheet is fixed, and over time decreases as you pay back the mortgage. So you end up owning 100% of the property growth. So on paper, property price growth has been great for my paper net worth. Now, that was a bit of a mouthful. I was reading on a post that growth in net worth from house price growth is like empty calories of wealth. Now, I can understand that growth in house prices really doesn't mean much unless you increase your mortgage to take equity out or you sell your home. I'm not doing either of those because I still need a roof over my head and all that jazz. But in the case of selling your home, we still need a place to live. So unless we are downsizing or moving to another location that's significantly cheaper, you have to face it, everything else in the property market has gone up too. So yes, I am wealthier, but only on paper, which leads me onto a new metric which I use when my monthly family balance reconciliation, and that is to work out my net worth the old-fashioned way. And what does that involve? Well, you add up all your assets and less all your debts, and then make an additional deduction for assets that I can't get hold of quickly. So this included the net value of my home, and in a simple example, if my net worth is £1 million but my home is 550k, then my easy access net worth would be 450k. It puts things into perspective. Now, my net worth is my net worth, and my home is part of that on my quest to financial freedom. I also need to think about assets I can access and what investments I have that can generate passive income. And that's super duper important, guys, if I want to be financially free. So it gets my focus on building that pool. Now, the second point I mentioned was working from home. So being an employee, a business owner, investor, and part-time YouTuber, I love the trend of working from home. I absolutely love it. My company, my husband's company, and many companies have found that working from from home is both as productive as coming into the office and saves time and money for both the employee and the employer. Now, I'm talking about my own personal thoughts on this trend as it is for me, because I totally get that the trend doesn't work for everyone, and that as time has gone on, we've missed that camaraderie and office environment as well, and it's all part of that mental health cycle. And sometimes this has negative externalities which are beyond pure time and money, like our mental health and well-being. That being said, hybrid working and spending time working from home is here to stay. So millions of workers will continue working from home after the pandemic, and many will set up hybrid arrangements, splitting time between the home and the office. So the point is, no matter which side of the fence you're on, it would be difficult to argue that location flexibility is here to stay. For me, it's worked out quite well. I can do my full-time job, and the time I would have spent in the evenings working on my YouTube is much more easily done by saving the couple of hours of commute time I had coming into the City of London. That's an extra 10 hours a week and enough to edit a video, right? So this new model of working is a real opportunity for those of us that want to hustle and work on passion projects where it was difficult to carve out time in the past to do so. Now, I've got 2 toddlers and another on the way, I'll have you know. So my social life was already quite questionable. But now with my laptop and my passion projects, I can work on things like YouTube, which hopefully scale over time. So my 2 takeaways, if anything, from this video are: think about net worth in terms of what you can access, and 2, work on stuff now that we have more time available from the hybrid working evolution. A lot of this video relates to houses, and I have been chatting a lot about houses, particularly in London where I live and invest in property. And as an investor in London, there is blooming news that the underperformance is grinding to a halt. So in fact, London and her suburbs are now booming, with June data now being available. Housing activity in the most expensive areas of London reached record highs as lockdown easing begins to draw more people back into the capital. So if you want to see more about house prices in my neck of the woods, then click over here and I'll see you over there.